Hi everybody, I'm Mike McCrory, and this is Would You Make It? My cousin asked me if I could make a shut the box game for her mom. I had no idea what that was, but of course I said yes. I quickly researched it and figured it wouldn't be that difficult. I'll make a single player game for my aunt. She's the one who I made this cremation urn for back in 2017, but she's still kicking. While I'm at it, I'm also going to make a 4-player game for us. So, let's get started. I have a lot of offcuts from other projects. I have lots of walnut, some padauk, a piece of Madagascan rosewood, some curly maple, some white oak, some Bolivian rosewood, and a couple pieces of leopardwood. That should be plenty for this project. I'll joint one edge of each piece and then I'll figure out how I'm going to cut everything. If you're not familiar with the game, it has a number of tiles that are numbered, and you flip them down after you roll the dice to match the number of pips on the dice. I'm going to make the numbered tiles out of curly maple, leopardwood, white oak, and padauk. I'm going to set up the table saw to cut a 1-inch width for the tiles, and then I'll cut enough strips for the game. I'm going to make my aunt's game to have numbers from 1 to 12, and I'll make the 4-player game to have numbers from 1 to 10, so I'll need to cut enough material to make those 52 tiles. For this last piece of curly maple, it's already 1 inch thick, so I'll adjust the fence to give me a 5/8 inch cut so that I can end up with tiles that are roughly a 1/2 inch thick. Now I'll run those pieces through the planer. And for the other pieces, I'll trim off some excess on the bandsaw and reduce them down to about 5/8 of an inch thick. And then I'll run those through the planer so that everything is the same thickness. Then I'll rotate them 90 degrees with the planer set to about 1 inch to get all the tiles the same width. Now with my chop saw, I'll cut each of the tiles to be approximately 4 inches long. It didn't take many cuts for me to realize that I should have been holding the piece with my left hand because it's between the stop block and the blade, and it had a tendency to fly out. With stop blocks set up on the drill press to get repeatable positioning of the holes, I'll drill a hole in each piece so that these tiles can fit onto a 1/8 inch steel rod. I'm using a 3/16 inch roundover bit to round over both ends of the tiles so that they're a little smoother to the touch. I'll sand the ends to make them a little smoother. And then I'll cut the steel rod for the single player game. I cut this long enough to accommodate 12 tiles with a washer between each tile and 2 washers on each outside end, and then a little bit of extra length to fit into a wooden holder. Before I proceed too much further, I want to use my laser to add the numbers. If I screw this up, it wouldn't be too much work to recreate the tiles. They need to be numbered on both sides, so I'll flip the whole thing over and burn the numbers again on the other side. And then I'll burn the numbers onto the tiles for the 4-player game. For the single-player game, I'm going to cut some curly maple that will sit along the inside walls of the box. I'm doing this for 2 reasons. The most important reason is because this will hold the steel rod, and the other reason is because I'm going to put felt on the bottom, and this interior border will help to conceal any flaws if I don't cut the felt perfectly. I'm building the game from the inside out, so I'm starting with this interior curly maple piece. I'll miter the corners to create a square, and then I'll build the box around that to get a perfect fit. I need to add one more piece that will serve as a rest for the tiles when they're flipped down, so I'll use my dado blade to make cuts so that everything will fit together. You'll see how this works when I get to the assembly. But first, I'll take everything outside and spray on a lacquer finish. I want to spray all the tiles without the steel rod. And that's a lot easier, and it will prevent the lacquer from getting on the rod. Now I'll insert the rod into the 2 curly maple sides of the border. I drilled holes halfway through 2 of the pieces, but I somehow didn't film that step. And you can see how that cross piece fits in to serve as a rest for the pieces when they're flipped down. I'll glue everything together, and while the glue is drying, I can work on the box that this will fit into. I'll resaw this piece down the middle and then plane both pieces down to the same thickness. Now I'll cut the pieces to be the height of the box. And then I'll miter the corners and then head back to the table saw to cut a groove for the plywood bottom. Now I'll glue everything up. While that's gluing up, I'll get the laser working on the plywood top, and while that's working, I will prepare the sides of the top. This top will fit over the bottom part of the box. I'll miter the corners to be just long enough to fit over the bottom part of the box, and then it'll be ready to glue up as soon as the laser is finished. Fort Dover is the town in Canada where my aunt lives, and we're heading up there next week for our wedding, so I basically had a week to get both of these games finished. I put the bottom part inside the top just to make sure everything fits before I clamp it up. It's pretty tight, but that might just be because of the clamping pressure. Worst case, I can sand the sides of the bottom portion to loosen up the fit. While the glue is drying, I will start working on the 4-player game. I'm going to make this one a little fancier with a maple burl veneer on the top, so I'm spraying on some veneer softener and I will clamp it flat for a day or two. I'll use paper towels to soak up the excess moisture. I'm going to mill up some Bolivian rosewood, and this will be used for the top portion of the box that will fit over the game pieces and sit on the bottom portion. I'm also going to use the Bolivian rosewood for the cross pieces that will be used to hold the steel rods. Now I'm cutting the narrow and relatively thin cross pieces, and then I'll head to the chop saw to cut them to length. Again, I'm building this from the inside out, so I'm cutting the cross pieces to be the correct length to hold the steel rods, and then I'll build the box around that. These cross pieces are going to intersect, so I'm cutting a notch a couple of inches from each end of all 4 pieces. I'm going to build the base out of Madagascan rosewood, and this will fit around those Bolivian rosewood cross pieces. This is going to have a plywood bottom, so I'm cutting the groove for the plywood into each piece. Now I'll miter the corners so that they fit tightly around those cross pieces. And now I'll mark the position of the 2 holes that I will drill to hold the steel rod. I need to mark how far in and how high. And then I will drill a hole halfway through the wood at the same position in each of the pieces. Now I will glue up the base. While that's gluing up, I will glue the maple burl veneer onto the plywood. I'm using Titebond cold press veneer adhesive for this. The veneer is not quite as wide as I need. It's not worth using another piece of veneer, so I will add some trim around the edge to hide the shortfall. Now I will insert the tiles and fit them into the cross pieces. Those thin Bolivian rosewood pieces are thin enough that I can bend them to get the rods to fit in. There's a bit of an overlap at the corners, so I'll fix that by shortening each of the tiles. Luckily I didn't put the numbers too close to the ends. I cut about 3/8 of an inch off each piece so that they would fit. And then I had to round over the ends again and reapply some lacquer. Now I'll sand the base to clean up the glue joints. I'll get the laser working on burning a logo into the veneered top. While that's working, I'll cut the Bolivian rosewood pieces that will form the sides of the box. I'll cut these miters so that the top fits just over those cross pieces, and the top will sit on top of the Madagascan rosewood base. And I'll cut a groove for the plywood top. Now I'll glue everything up. While the glue is drying, I will cut 4 strips of ebony to serve as the trim on the top of the box to conceal the fact that the veneer doesn't go all the way to the edge. I'll miter the corners to get a really tight fit along the inside of the top. I'm going to piece in some scraps of veneer so that everything is at the same height when I glue in the ebony. Now I'm going to angle the corners of those cross pieces so that they do not have a sharp 90-degree corner. Next, I'm going to chamfer the bottom of the base piece so that it's easier to pick up the game. Now I'll spray on some pre-catalyzed lacquer. For my ants game, I've cut a square piece of green felt. I'll use a bit of spray-on adhesive and then position it so that it's flat and stretched to the edges. And then the wooden border just slips in. It's not glued in place, so it will be easy to change the felt at some point if desired. And the top fits on nicely. For the 4-player game, I've cut a square of black felt, and I will do the same to put it into position. In this case, I want to stretch it all the way to the edge because I do not have a border to conceal any flaws. And that's it. I got everything done just in time. To play the game, you simply roll the dice. I rolled a 10, so I can flip down any combination of tiles that add up to 10. So I'll turn down the 10. Next, I rolled a 3 and a 2, so I can flip down the 5, the 3 and the 2, or the 4 and the 1. I'll flip down the 5. Now I rolled a 3, so I'll flip down the 3. After a couple more turns, I rolled a 7, so my only option is to flip down the 4, 2, and 1. That leaves me with a 9. If I don't roll a 9 on my next turn, then I'm done. At the end, you add up all of your remaining tiles, and the person with the lowest total wins. If you manage to flip down all of your tiles, then you have shut the box, and you immediately win. It's a quick game, it's fun, and it's great for young kids who are developing their math skills. It's hard to believe you can buy these on Amazon for like 25 bucks, but maybe they're not quite as nice as these. So I gotta ask, would you make it?